And so this whole process of helping student teachers learn something immediately, giving them good feedback in a timely fashion, picking small chunks of knowledge, correcting what's important right away so that they learn in that sense, along in sort of grounding some information in that context to begin with. Questions about that? All right. Yes? Mm-hmm. We have the sticky notes, and we have them in each person just brainstorm characteristics of student teachers, and then we have them create a graphic organizer of the of a student teacher. And so then that's what they've looked at and created along the way. And actually the directions are on your CD in there, in your notes. So that's for a later discussion.
Thank you. But I do want to tell you a little bit about what's on your CD, because everything we do in training is on the CD that's in the back of your book. We didn't put all the materials in the booklet because we wanted to point out some specific parts to you, but on your CD you will have our agenda for each day and our training notes that we use, because we want to make it so if somebody can't be there, anybody else can do that part of it and we don't lose it. Also, because every time we do the training, we listen, we see our feedback, and that goes into what we do. However, the basic training is the same, and we want to make sure that all of our clinical faculty have the same training. So Sandy brings her computer along, and as we are doing our training, and if we happen to make changes in whoever's doing it, then that goes into our notes, and for the next training in the spring, then that is incorporated into what we do, because as we tell our clinical faculty, it's all about them, it's all about the student teachers, and it's all about the K-12 students. So when they give us feedback, it is very important to what we do. And we've been thinking about a little bit here, and also on our first day of training, we think about who our clinical faculty are as teachers. We think about who our student teachers are, and it's also important to think about what they are going through while they are student teaching. Because we know sometimes they come in and they are just as brash as they can be, and they have got it all together. Maybe. Sometimes they come in and they're very shy. And, you know, maybe they don't have it all together. We don't know. But what we do know is that there's been research that tells us what they're going through while they're student teaching. And the truth is, we used some research that was done actually many years ago. But the fact is, I've looked through lots and lots of research, and I haven't found anything that seems to me to be more true or more real than what we are using. So if you would look, please, in your book on the gray page, I think it is, and the developmental stages. So just a little recap. Students come in, and there's anxiety and euphoria. And this is kind of the thing that a lot of our cooperating teachers find a little confusing, the fact that you've got anxiety and euphoria at the same time, that there are conflicting emotions going on all through student teaching. And especially when you get to the point of like competence and inadequacy. How's that working? Well, you've got a few things that you can do well. You know, you did a mini lesson, and that was good. You went through the homework, but you did some little things and you did them well. And you begin to see the big picture of all the things that you have to do well. And it's kind of scary. because you look at the paperwork, you know, all the things, all the reports and everything you have to do, that doesn't come through so much in your previous field experiences, and it doesn't come through in classes. It comes through when you're actually student teaching. So this whole thing, understanding that there is a wealth of feelings that are going on in the student teachers, and the fact that it's not just what they're doing in school. Their life doesn't go on hold while they're student teaching. It's extremely important. And also, and you can read these, and I hope you will, because they really give us insight, but loss and relief. Yay, I made it. And oh, I'll never have another class like this one, right?
And the tears.
Oh, the tears, yes. And I'm going to be back to visit you, and oftentimes they do go back. And then they go to another class, and it's the same thing all over again. They love those as well. But understanding that as a cooperating teacher, it is extremely important, and supervisors, how you deliver your message to this adult learner who's just kind of seething inside, working on surviving through this experience and doing the very best thing they can. Any questions about the developmental stages? We start this out by giving them cards with the stages on them, and we ask them to put them in order, the way they think they go. And it brings wonderful, wonderful discussions, because we have our participants sitting at tables with about 6 together each time. And we have them up and down and moving around. We tell them not to get attached to their seats, because every activity just about has them moving to a new group. So they get to know each other, and they get feedback from all these different people.
Do you have support from the district and the teachers to be able to do this? Because that's been one of our biggest challenges, is how do we get the teachers won't come out on the weekend unless there's a stipend, and we can't take them out during the school day without a great deal of stress and aggravation. So when do you do this?
We do this on 2 consecutive Wednesdays in November and April.
Okay.
And the school divisions pay for the substitutes.
Yes, we're very, very fortunate. The school divisions have bought into this from the very beginning. Our budgets are in there somewhere. The school divisions and each of the universities each pay, do you talk about this later?
No.
$500 a year to keep the consortium going. And then we do gift in kinds with our service, because we provide all the training, and then they pay for the substitutes to have their teachers come for the training.
So they pay, each school division pays approximately 28 days of substitutes, because they have 7 in the fall and 7 in the spring and 2 days each. So that makes 28 days for each school division that they pay, in addition to the $500.
Yes. No, we don't. And we don't require student teachers to be with them, even though we try to get student teachers with them. We actually have too many student teachers to put with clinical faculty. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, we pay them twice as much a week. Instead of $10 a week, they get $20 a week. Yeah. I think the biggest thing from most of the teachers that do this really are committed to it, but it helps us a lot, because we don't do as many we don't do as many visits when they have a student teacher when they're clinical faculty. They do 5 formal evaluations, and we only have to do 2. So we rely on them to do much more of the observations than we do with the non-clinical faculty. And so we're relying on them to do a lot of the work. So we're trusting them with our work.
We hear the question a lot about how do you have the school districts buy into this. And I may be the one that knows the other side a little bit. I was a school superintendent in one of these school districts for a while before I came to Mary Baldwin. And the payoff for the school districts, if you need to try to use this approach, is in fact consistency of not having to deal quite so independently with multiple institutions. For instance, you're going to hear later that we use the same assessment forms. And we coordinate placements as opposed to just hitting the school districts kind of randomly. And the quality of the staff development that these teachers receive are the things that have value in the school districts. And so the quality, the consistency, and the minimizing of disruption by having this cooperative effort is what you might use to talk to those school districts about the advantage for them.
The other thing we want to talk about is the pink pages or purple pages in your book, which is co-teaching. Back in February of 1999, we went to a session at ATE by Mike Pearl and his friends on co-teaching. And just at that time in Virginia, there was a lot of standardized testing started with the standards of learning. And we were beginning to not be able to place student teachers in 3rd grade and 5th grade and 8th grade and all of the high schools in the spring. And so we said, we've got to do something. And we looked at this and said, maybe there's something to co-teaching. And we applied for a grant. And one of the things that's made the consortium last is that we've just done training of student teachers the whole time, except for this one little venture into co-teaching, which we had the clinical faculty teachers do with us. And we wrote a co-teaching handbook that we put together based on the co-teaching article that Mike Pearl wrote, and he gave us permission to use in that. And so on the first night, at the end of the first day of clinical faculty training, we give them this article. It's in their notebook. Tell them they have to read this. And then we come back and we talk about it the first day, about how would this work. And the whole co-teaching handbook is available online, and the reference is on your CD. It's public domain. It's owned by the state of Virginia. So you can go and get it off of the website and print as 59 million copies, free, except for the publishing. It's yours. It was written by clinical faculty people who used it and made it applicable to K to 3, 4 to 5, middle school, and high school, and said, how does this work? And we had people in 5th grade classrooms in Stanton City who the year before had struggled to have their students pass SOLs, and they said, we got to do something. And they were part of the pilot, and they were astonished and very pleased to see their scores go up because they did co-teaching with their student teachers. And ever since then, we basically, there are pockets where we've had to go back and convince people, but we've been using this ever since to say, you don't have just one teacher, you always have 2 teachers in the room for the most part. And how do you transition from the student teacher being the support to the student teacher being the lead teacher and the cooperating teacher being there as the one to assist or to take kids out in the hall or to the library and doing all those kind of fun things. And so it's that process of